Right, let's make the first sketchbook photograph of the year. It's a blue sky. You probably expected me to say that. New Year's Day I'm recording this on. So when it goes out on Friday, we'll be a day into the new year fully. Shutter speed 1/2/5, f4.5, ISO 800, and there we go. The first sketchbook photograph taken from the path for the year. So yeah, here we are, 2026, the first photo walk show of the year. The calendar's ticked over, and we're stepping into a new year with a vigorous level of enthusiasm. Well, most of us manage it early on in January, don't we? And then we're like, oh, resolutions. Oh dear, that can go by the wayside. Got too much on to be doing resolutions, but it's good to be back. I've had a couple of weeks off. What do you mean you didn't notice? Charming. Anyway, today's show. Now, before Christmas, I asked you to send me one picture from 2025, just one. Not necessarily your best one, not your most liked on Insta. In fact, not anything judged against anybody or anything else. Just the one that meant a lot to you from 2025, the one you perhaps kept coming back to if you review your images. And you did come back with pictures, that is. You did, you really did, in numbers that caught me quite off guard, to be honest. Over 100 pictures arrived, each one with a story attached, sometimes quite long, sometimes just a few lines, and sometimes, frankly, so personal that I was really taken aback. I said before Christmas, actually, on the episode, as we went into our break, that it's incredible the amount of trust that you place in this show when you share your thoughts. And the one, as a feature, was certainly not an exception. It's very, very important that none of this was ever meant to be a contest. There's no shortlist, no winners, no pecking order. The pictures that were chosen to talk about here are simply ones that stopped me in my tracks for one reason or another. Sometimes it was the photograph itself, sometimes the backstory, sometimes it was, well, just because. And that just because thing is really important, because we do this creative thing that's very subjective. And just because sometimes is good enough, isn't it? It really is. It's just because can have that, whoa, look at that about it, can't it? Or it can have that, oh, that's really interesting. I'd like to know a bit more about that kind of feeling. And that was the loose criteria. It really was. The plan originally was the first episode back, i.e. this one, 10 pictures, few minutes on each, neat and contained, one show, featuring the one. But once I started talking to the photographers, the humans behind them, I mean properly talking, it became very obvious that was never going to work. These were not 5-minute chats. They opened out into how you see, why you photograph the way you do, what was going on in your life at the time. And there was advice in there sometimes. They became meandering chats too in places. Nothing wrong with that. The kind you might make or do when you meet somebody when you're out. No kind of script at all, just an honest conversation. So this has become 2 weeks instead of one. 5 pictures, 5 photographers, 5 pictures, 5 the one pictures. This episode is the first half of that. A set of conversations that are a little longer than planned in places, just because they need to, or need to be. I want you to feel like you and I have gone to meet the good folk of Photo Walk Land and have ordered up a round of coffees, and we're going to nurse them for as long as we can. We don't care. We've taken the comfy seats in the corner that everybody usually likes to nab. That's the feeling I would like this show to have. Or, of course, if you're out on a photo walk, even better. So this show is not rushed. It's not trimmed back to fit any kind of running order. It's simply photo walkers talking about pictures that meant something to them, and by extension, saying a bit about themselves at the same time. Now, I know you may well want to see the pictures we talk about. In fact, I hope you do. And of course, there is a show page that this show links to that has the photos in question, plus the original narrative, or if you like, the letter that was written in with them. If you sent something in and you're not on this show or the next, that does not mean it didn't land in terms of my emotions. Far, 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 far from it. It just means this thing grew legs and wandered off slightly, like what I do, which feels, well, I think it feels right for the start of a new year. Besides, the one is going to stay on the website as a feature. And now and then during the year, I am going to return to it and pick a further picture or 8 to chat with possibly you about. So are you ready? Here is The One, Part 1.
Today on the photo walk.
That was actually the sound of a pebbly beach, and it was just the sound of the ocean rolling on the pebbles. And I mean, literally felt like I was holding her hand again, standing on that beach.
When I see Northern Lights, I always sort of feel like, that's her. She's sending me a sign.
Probably more important than light, and some people might yell at me for that, but is to get down low, and they just become the feature, the main thing.
I was sitting up near the altar at the time and just kind of watching things going on. And he caught my eye a couple of times. And the doctor was working with him probably for only about 5-10 minutes.
The rag tied to the railing, the very human element, and just the vast grey blank sea beyond sort of spoke to me in a way.
Voices there belonging to my guests on the Photo Walk show today. It is the first of 2 Welcome to the Year shows, really. 5 guests, 5 photographs, 5 stories from the pictures sent in response to my request a few months back to send in the picture that says 2025 to you, or rather said 2025 to you, since we're now in a new year. It was the one, the picture that says something about you and the year just gone. I want to start this year, though, by thanking the patrons who last year helped support the show so that it could be here week after week after week. Our extra milers, as you know, are the very why, the very how of this show, because your belief in this podcast and your desire to keep us walking together is the fuel behind this project, which is now 513 episodes and rising. Every week there's an extra show available through Patreon, which features a second part of my conversation with my guest or guests and chats with those in the community. Thanks also to arthelper.ai, who help you sell your photos online by making the posts and the mock-ups and the marketing emails for you. Now, we're in 2026. You may well be thinking, look, this is the year I'm going to sell some of my work, but you don't have a clue where to start. Arthelper.ai, jump in and do the tricky bits for you. And you can get 30 days free with code PHOTOWALK when you go to arthelper.ai. There is a film on the show page that explains the service. So, my guests in a moment. We've got David Wright talking about serenity in photography with a picture that in many ways is like an emotional time capsule, which in terms of emotion, well, that's the story too behind a very important picture of the Northern Lights made by John Charlton. Wayne Richards joins me on the path in person to talk about, well, a rag tied to railing that shouted, "Photograph me!" Kim Cofield has some great advice for those who make animal portraits, and Mark Creamer recalls a picture from a disaster zone. Yes, 5 pictures, 5 photographers, 5 stories to start the year. Oh, and I also have some news of a new 2026 podcast, which is part of the Photo Walk family. So it is. So, shall we walk? Checklist out. Coffee, definitely, check. Garibaldi's, check. Loose change for the cafe at the end of the walk, check. Walking boots, check. Some film or maybe an extra SD card just in case, check. Well, let's walk. Your reflections on walking, creativity and photography make this community the safe place that it is and gives us a pause from the world's noise as we head into 2026. It's not really a mailbag show for a couple of weeks, although I've snaffled one, I think, that I'm going to read out. So we'll stop for a sneaky Garibaldi and a no-tet at some stage. On that note, though, the email address for the show is stories@photowalk.show, stories@photowalk.show. I would love to hear from you, where you're travelling, where you've been, the photographs that you've been making, the adventures you've been having. Send me your thoughts about this thing, photography as well. And that's what fuels the show, as I say, the letters in between our wonderful guests. Stories@photowalk.show. So, where shall we start? I say 5 pictures and 5 stories, but it's really 5 photographers talking about their pictures sent in for the one. But obviously we have a chance to talk about the picture they made and also the lives that they lead behind the lens. And I'm going to start by magicking up, if there's such a phrase, Wayne Richards, who actually suggested he'd pop over to where I walk and answer my questions in person as we walk. It's not always possible, of course, being such an international show. So when it can, I'm delighted that you come and join me for a walk. On that note, if you do want to pop over and have a wander in person in my neck of the woods, you are more than welcome. Bring dog treats for Barnes, he's not here today, and an appetite for the cafe after. That's all I ask. All the pictures, as I said before, featured today will be on the show page, episode 513 on the Photowalk website, photowalk.show. That way you see what we're just about to talk about. If you're listening in the car on the move, we'll describe them for you. So don't be taking sneaky looks at the website till you get home. And one last thing, yes, if you sent in a picture for the one, as I said in the introduction, and you're not featured here over the next couple of weeks, fear not, I am keeping the page there on the website, and I will be talking now and then to others about their picture. Housekeeping done. Here's Wayne Richards, our first photographer, walking the path with me, kicking off the one, part 1, talking about his picture. Wayne, I feel you're living the podcast because you're seeing the trains that go past. In a moment, Barney will no doubt misbehave himself and start barking when he's not supposed to. This is the very path that it's recorded on, not the closet, as somebody suggested we record it in.
Very much so, Neil, and it does feel exactly like how I imagined it from the podcast.
Oh,
the train's
good.
going by, and we can hear the water there in the background. It's a Barkalot accompanying us. Just a beautiful place to walk, and you're very fortunate to be able to do this on a regular basis.
Wow. You're going to have another one of the treats in a moment when we get back, because you can't possibly walk past the cafe without having a coffee and I don't know what your religion allows you, but a bacon sarnie perhaps.
That's the reason I came, really, Neil.
So, photography. Now, I wouldn't say new to photography. Certainly your journey is more recent than many.
Certainly, compared to a lot of your guests you've had on the past, I didn't pick up a camera when I was a child. I wasn't gifted a box brownie when I was a teenager. I didn't have a grandfather who introduced me to photography. It's only really during the last 12 or 15 years that I've started to take pictures. And even then, at the start, it was very much just documenting my own travels, my own experiences. And it's only really as I've become more involved in photography, read around the subject, started writing around the subject, that I feel my photography's taken on a little bit more meaning to me, and I've also become, as I said, a lot more interested in photography. It is very much a solo pursuit, but it's interesting how we all love to get together and talk about photography and talk about our work.
You said writing about it.
Yeah, so I've recently taken over editorship of a publication called The Decisive Moment, which is the quarterly online publication of the RPS documentary photography group. So that's been really interesting, getting to meet different photographers, getting to talk to them about their experiences, about their work, and really getting to explore a lot deeper certain images and what they mean. So it's been a really enjoyable experience.
So a study of photography.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
I'm particularly interested in sort of documentary style work. When I first started, I was more interested in sort of street photography and the one-off shot. But I think over time, as I researched it more, I liked the work of people like Tish Murtagh, Shirley Baker, Chris Killip, and became much more interested in social documentary and a longer form of work. So
Yeah, you went to see Lee Miller's exhibition in London at the Tate. It's Tate Britain, isn't it?
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
What did you think?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of images there, 250 images spread across several galleries. She's probably better known for her later work around the war, Second World War. But it was really pleasing to see how busy that exhibition was.
Was there any of her fashion work?
Yeah, her early work was there. I mean, what an incredible life. And if anybody's not seen the film, I'd recommend they take a bit of time out and watch that, give it a watch.
I thought Kate Winslet was absolutely remarkable in that film.
She was. It was, she's led quite a life.
What, Lee or Kate?
Both.
Both for the different creative reasons. So the photograph that I'm featuring as it's been so hard, Wayne, to pick 10 out of the amount that came in. I think we're going to be doing a bit more of this during the year, actually. I'm going to just dip into that library and occasionally, I think, pull one out. But your picture, I'm going to ask you to describe it, first of all.
So the picture's taken at Southsea on the pier there.
Love Southsea.
And if you can imagine, right at the end of the pier, there's a set of railings.
Yeah.
And tied to the railing was this piece of cloth.
So you didn't put it there?
No, it was there.
No,
it was
right,
there.
okay. Just checking.
No.
Not that would be a crime, because abstract means you can set a picture up.
It was there, and neither is it AI generated.
Right, yes.
And then, obviously, you're looking out onto the bleak sea beyond.
Yes.
And I think, as photographers, what we become very good at is noticing certain things. We become much more aware. And I think most people would just pass that by without giving it a care in the world. Whereas I stopped and I probably spent about, 15 minutes photographing this one rag tied to this railing. Obviously, you can imagine the sort of looks I was getting from people as to, why the hell is he photographing that?
Well, I call it my "it's a puddle" thing. When I was photographing that puddle and somebody went past me and said, "It's a puddle, mate," and they actually cycled through it as well. Because I think we do see things. I'm not necessarily suggesting that a rag tied to a railing on Southsea Pier is going to be something that's something of beauty, but we see something of a sort of beauty in it.
Very much. I love an abandoned shoe, a dropped glove, anything sort of discarded. But you're right, Neil, we do look out for odd things. And going on to the summer exhibition where I entered it for, the theme that year was to do with dialogues. Okay. And to me, there was a dialogue there, and between why was this rag there, what was the meaning of it, what was it saying, and also the juxtaposition between the rag tied to the railing, the very human element, and just the vast grey blank sea beyond sort of spoke to me in a way.
That's why I love the picture. There was a simplicity about it. There is a narrative, and that's why I liked it so much. It's a very clean image. It's beautifully done in that respect.
That's very kind of you to say, Neil. Obviously,
I don't mean clinical, by the way.
No. For me, it's a very emotional image, and I gave it the title "Not Drowning but Waving," and "Waving, Not Drowning," based on the Stevie Smith poem, which has always been one of my favourites, and that sort of speaks to this idea of miscommunication, social isolation, a loneliness that you can feel when you're either not heard or you're misunderstood. And so I think it asks us to pay a bit more attention to what people are saying and how they're saying it.
Prior to photography, did you study things like this in quite this fashion? Because you've really thought about it. The dialogue you mentioned, where it is, the title, the poem. I mean, it's a rag. And all of this, which I think is fantastic, all of this has come from that.
No, not at all. I think...
so photography has opened your eyes quite literally?
Very much so,
Yeah.
very much so. I think to start with, when I was photographing, that was for just documenting my own personal experience.
Yeah.
But the more I got into it, the more I began to realise there's a responsibility in terms of what you show, the context, the ethics behind it, what people's reaction might be. And I think that's made me more responsible as a photographer and more thoughtful about what I show and why I show it.
So does 2026, it sounds to me like it might, is 2026 going to be a year where you show a lot more of your work?
I hope so, yeah. There's always this creative tension, if you like, Neil, between we shoot for ourselves,
Yes.
which is internally motivated, but we put our work out there for exhibition or competition, and that's sort of externally validated. So there's always those two vying, but I think they can coexist. I think if you think about what is the work for at this particular moment in time, so as long as you're not letting the competition or the exhibition dictate your creativeness and steer you down a particular path, as long as you keep shooting for yourself, then I think the two can coexist, and you can put work forward for competition or exhibition.
Tell me about the RPS, because I'm intrigued by what societies people subscribe to.
Yeah, so I'm a member of the documentary group. We've got about 700 members across the world, which is great. Yeah. We've just, every 2 years, we run our documentary photography awards, which have just finished for this year. And then we select 9 series. So there's an open category, a student category, and a category for members. We select 3 bodies of work from each, and they go on to a touring exhibition which goes around the UK the following year. So that'll be coming up in 2026. But it's a great opportunity to meet like-minded individuals and just get to delve into the documentary photography a little bit more.
You've been to a few festivals as well, haven't you? You were telling me about one you went to. Was it Bristol?
Books on Photography in Bristol is always a good festival.
And then there was Peter Dench's. It's not purely his, I know, but I think of it as Peter's, but it's not. That's unfair.
So you've got Photo North coming up in Leeds, and then you have a festival called the Northern Eye, which is held in Colwyn Bay and Aberystwyth. So all really good festivals. So you normally have a cracking lineup of speakers. We were fortunate enough to have Martin Parr speak at the Northern Eye Festival this year. Yeah. So it was a great opportunity to see him and hear him speak about his work. Sadly missed, of course.
Well, if you had to choose a photographer that's greatly inspired you, maybe it will be Martin. But who would you choose?
That's a really tricky one.
Unfair, really.
But, I would say it would be one of the British social documentary photographers, so probably Tish Murtagh. And if you haven't seen her film Tish, I would recommend it.
Yeah. What about Chris Killip?
The Seacole stuff,
that's why it's difficult, isn't it?
Fantastic.
Let's move over. There's a runner coming through. Pups, over here. Here. Come here. There we go. Sit. Good boy. Not you, Wayne.
Can I have a treat?
Hi. Well,
I
think. Well, he is sometimes. I mean, you've seen the best. We see the best of times and the worst of times. To quote Dickens. There we go. Don't do it silently. You're supposed to make noises. Oh, what is all this silent eating all of a sudden? You know, people saying the dog doesn't exist.
What about you, Neil? Have you got one particular photographer
goodness.
that you would say has influenced you?
Mine tends to, it really does move with who I interview and who I'm studying when I interview them. Because the rabbit holes that open up, for instance, just before Christmas, I interviewed Phil Sharp, and I absolutely adore Phil's work. In fact, I saw it first last year, and I should have really approached him then for an interview. It's funny how the time just seems to whisk by. I love his work because I love this very considered approach Phil has to portrait photography, and it was a great honour to talk to him. And it's always fantastic to be able to ask the questions behind the pictures. For example, there's some pictures on there where his subjects are crying. And I was really, if you haven't heard the episode yet, you'll hear him say why they were. But I was intrigued by that, so Phil Sharp. But then I suppose if I look at what I grew up with, there is one photographer that impacted me before I lifted up a camera properly myself. And that was the dear late Tom Stoddart. And I mention him often, I know, but the photograph of, and it's a horrific photograph, of the 747 nose cone at Tundergarth near Lockerbie, sat in that field with the ghostly figure of the policeman walking in front because it was a slow shutter speed. That picture, that picture is probably, might sound a bit dramatic, but probably the most important picture to me. Not because I wanted to then go off and be a photojournalist, but because it set the scene to what emotional impact a single photograph, a still, can have. And I'll never forget that photograph. And in fact, I was at the time working abroad, and I was just about to get on an airliner, and that picture impacted me for all sorts of reasons. Social reasons, reasons of fear, the news, the travesty of the whole thing. It's just a massive picture to me.
Very much so. Not only do our photographs document life, but they also have a lasting and emotional impact on us.
Yeah. We've gone deep, haven't we, all of a sudden? Anyway, thank you for sending that picture in. It was a real privilege to feature it, and now to be walking with you as well. I think that's the great thing about photography and friendships that are formed through it. And you find that with the RPS?
Very much so. Yeah. As we talked about earlier, photography is a very solitary pursuit.
Yeah.
But one of the best bits is coming together with people, talking about your work, talking about photography and the social. So it is a social side to it as well.
Well, I'm going to ask one more question, actually. I'm going to just throw this one in the air. You hear it answered week after week, but since we're walking together, it would be amiss of me if I didn't ask you, what is your why?
Oh dear, I should have known this was coming, shouldn't I? I think I'm still trying to figure that out, Neil, to be honest. I'm not trying to dodge the answer, but I think it's changed over time.
Yeah.
And I think it will continue to evolve as I become more aware of my own work and the impact that it can have. So I'm going to dodge the question slightly and say I'm not quite sure.
You won't get away with it. I will ask you again at some stage. Now that you live so close, I suspect it won't be the only walk we ever do with a camera, although neither of us have got our cameras out.
Yes, I'm waiting for you to do your sketchbook shots.
Yeah, I should be. I feel I did this stretch a couple of days ago. This is a great, this boat here, the Jolly Roger. I photographed it the other day when it was round the other way, and it just says Ollie Roger, which must be its cousin.
Is this near to where the one was the sunken one?
It is, yeah, it's just along there. I fear this might be the next. I hope not.
Well, have we earned a coffee and a bacon butty?
Definitely. Now? There we go. You've worked in radio. You know how to do an out. And my thanks to Wayne Richards for stepping up to bat first, he says, using a cricket reference. A very quick note before you hear from my second guest talking about their The One picture. Last year, the Extra Milers have been enjoying a feature called Reflections. And actually, you've been hearing them on this channel on Mondays for It's just over a month, actually, isn't it? Month and a half-ish. Anyway, last year, I launched a short podcast feature called Reflections, just to rewind a bit, which started out as a challenge to see if I could write, for 1 month, some daily journal pieces. We talk often about writing on the show, and I just fancied having a go at it to see if I could write for 1 month these journaling pieces about creativity. And they were Monday to Friday, and they were taken from my work as right across the creative spectrum, really, from being a photographer to a podcaster to a voiceover to a traveller, because we did some travel journals, a celebrant even. So, yeah, it was pretty much wrapped in creativity, writing, photographing, recording sound. And they became 8 to 15 minutes short-form podcasts about photography and the philosophy of it with a small f. The joy of it, the frustrations, and as I say, even journal-styled travels with a camera, and. A month became 3, all the time supported by our wonderful, incredible, superb patrons, i.e. the Extra Milers, and they became this weekday, Monday to Friday, short-form podcast all of their own. I know a fair amount of people said it won't last. It'll be about a month and you'll run out of steam or you'll run out of stuff to talk about. But I didn't. And I've got a bank of things still to talk about. And Reflections has now become its own podcast, standing on its own 2 legs, if a podcast can do that. It's become part of the... Is it a trilogy? Is it a triptych? A trio of Photo Walk podcasts. There's the Photo Walk, there's the Extra Mile, and there's Reflections, all standing apart. So the new Reflections is now available. Every day there is a short story or a piece about being a creative. Go look for the channel. And there are a few Reflections, I appreciate, but it will be quite easy to find because it's the one that says Reflections by Neil James. Go to your podcast app, look up the Reflections, follow the feed, and every day, Monday to Friday, a new short episode will be there for you, new for 2026. And for those in the Extra Mile who were getting those as part of the Extra Mile, you really have been responsible for launching this and helping the podcast grow. You will get your own occasional, special, very personal reflection. I decided to do that for you in 2026. So there we go. All right, back to the one. There are a number of genres I want to feature a little more in 2026, one of which is wildlife, animal photography, pet photography. We cover this, yes, when we talk to our amazing wildlife photographers around the world to a degree, but closer to home it's the animals we see on our walks, the bird life and the wildlife of our countries. And even closer still to home, the animals we see or we take on our walks. The critters that have become our best friends, if you like. Those furry whatsits that make us laugh and cry and do such crazy oddball stuff, such as you know who. There are a number of those who listen who've embraced the animals closer to home, their pets and other people's pets. And one of those is good friend of the show and Extra Miler, Kim Cofield, who has really taken pet photography to heart, so much so it's become a fee-paying thing now. And so it should be, because her photographs of dogs in particular are fantastically strong. Let me read a little of what she wrote in to accompany this powerful picture of one of her own dogs. Why is this photo the one? Said Kim. Well, this photo represents everything I've been striving to achieve with my dog photography. When I first set out to become a dog photographer, everywhere I turned to for inspiration presented me with photos of dogs in European forests and European urban areas. They are so far removed from my reality here in Australia land, I didn't think I'd ever be able to have any success. However, when I met my photography mentor in person last year, I came to see that I could, in fact, use the landscape around me. I simply had to look using my eyes instead of thinking I had to mimic other people's work. How true is that, Kim, in all genres? So here's the second photograph, the second The One picture. It's Kim Cofield. Kim, it is a stunning image, this one, of one of your dogs. This is Claire. I always get Claire and Theo, you got the two, confused, but this is Claire. It's pride of place on the one page. It's a beautiful, beautiful image. They say don't work with animals and children. You've chosen to work with animals, dogs in particular, I think. So this, I think, shows you have a real understanding of how to compose a photograph that just isn't a dog in a frame with nothing interesting around it. Because tell me about the place, first of all, where you photographed Claire.
So the location is a place that I love to go to. I walk Theo and Claire there often enough. It is quite literally a 7-minute drive from home, because one day I decided to see how long it took, and it was 7 minutes precisely from leaving the driveway to arriving. But it's part of a place called Kings Billabong Nature Reserve.
Right.
It has a billabong, but it also has lots of other water that's come off from the Murray River and creates little inlets, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
There's lots of walking tracks. There's bird hides, so you can, if you want to, sit there and, with your lovely long lens and photograph the birds, because there's plenty of Australian birds.
Yeah.
But I have long been fascinated by the particular area where this photo was taken, because it often has no water in it, or only a very, very small amount of water. And I really like the tree trunks that from dead trees. They're just
so these are two dead trees. One of them looks like it doesn't go up much further.
No, it's just this great big.
It's the pattern though in these dead trees.
Yes, it's all the lines.
They're chiseled. They're carved lines.
Yeah. And it reminds me of architecture, which I know sounds ridiculous because we're talking about a dead tree, a tree stump. But the lines feel really architectural to me. And I realized recently, maybe in the last year or so, that I really like dead trees. So trees with no leaves, just dead.
Is it a subgenre of woodland?
Maybe it needs to be. But I find them fascinating, because when we think of nature, we tend, if I was to say to you, Neil, picture an image of nature, you're going to think of a forest or something, probably, right? Yeah. Correct. What we're thinking of is something that's alive. But these are dead, long dead. There was a tree stump, which in some flooding a couple of years ago, the floods took it away. It was one of my favourite tree stumps, lying on its side, massive root system, even though it was, all dead. Yeah. It's now gone. Yeah. But it actually was located not far from where that picture of Claire was taken. And it was just so beautiful, even though it's dead. It shouldn't be, beauty is supposed to be, but it is. It's just fascinating. And I love it. And I just find it beautiful. And I think a lot of that area in particular is quite sparse, especially when there is no water. It feels almost apocalyptic in nature, because, you can see there are areas where there is obviously minerals that must be in the water, because it's not flowing water when it has got water in it. So it's only from runoff that's spread out from the Murray. So it's not, it doesn't flow. So there's mineral buildup. So there's reds and yellows and sort of browny kind of colours in some areas where the water's disappeared. And, there are birds that use the area. I'm sure they're probably not drinking or anything like that, but you do see birds on that body of water. Kangaroos come through there. I don't know. It's just something about it I just find it fascinates me, and it always changes.
Well, Claire is positioned between these trunks, these dead trunks with this amazing chiseled pattern that runs down, one of them in particular, the one on the left. The other thing that's striking about this picture, we often talk about simplicity, and that what you take out of a photograph is sometimes as powerful as what's in it. And the fact that Claire is positioned between these trunks, and there's almost like a mid-grey background that you took out on two great big tripods to position in the background, because there's absolutely nothing to take your vision, your eye line, away from, and we'll talk about Claire's pose in a moment, but from the dog, from the subject. How did you do that? Was that a low camera position? So you just got sky in the back?
I was really, really low, like crouched, like, in fact, my feet, so at that day there was some water in the area, so I actually was standing in muddy sort of water, but I was really, really low. Like I'd crouched down as low as I could. I will very often, when I'm photographing dogs, or even people, depending on what I'm doing, I will lay down on the ground to get that angle that I need. That looking up is quite powerful. But I didn't want to do that. What I was wearing wasn't quite waterproof, and it would have been very muddy and very messy.
Or croc-proof.
Yeah. But because I use an XH2S, so the screen so I was actually able to have the screen, the camera down really even lower than I was technically. So I was able to get it at the right angle. But it was funny because when we went out, I was really disappointed that the sky had not a single cloud in it. I was in my head that would have had dramatic clouds, and they weren't there, but it didn't matter. I saw within that frame that it made no difference. It didn't need, in fact, it was better without them.
Yeah, I'd say.
I think they would have detracted from Claire and from the trees. Like there's just, so there's nothing. It was just angle.
Well, it just looks like the perfect studio set. It really does.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about Claire as a dog. Claire's breed is...
She is a Bull Arab cross Irish Wolfhound, so she's a big girl.
My word. She's very powerful.
Yes.
She's very muscular. This is a power portrait, if ever there were one. If this was an 80s portrait of a person, it would have been somebody with massive, great big lapels. That's the power of it.
Definitely.
She's perfectly positioned. She's looking off to her right as well. So there's a look off into the distance. There's no eye line with you. I think it's better for that, actually.
Yes.
And she's a very fit dog, and your low position makes her look very dominant in the frame, which for a larger dog like Claire is probably important, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Her highlighting her body shape, I felt was important. And the good thing about the tree being a tree, Barky, is her feet, like she was completely stable, completely happy to, like I would never put a dog in a situation where they weren't comfortable. So she was completely comfortable there, but just due to the angles, her feet are all at angles, which helps push the chest out a bit and do all that sort of stuff.
And accentuates the muscles in the back legs as well.
It does. It really does.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. And the island, did you wait for a moment where she was looking another way? Were you intent on getting a picture where she wasn't looking at you? Or
I wanted her not looking at me, and generally when I do that, so the good thing about Theo and Claire is they know as soon as I get my camera out, they know something's going on with them because from teeny tiny puppies, I've had my camera out. So they've learnt camera treats. We do whatever it is we're asked, we get treats, right? It's fantastic. So usually I can use a hand gesture, like push my hand off, depending on which way I want them to look. I can move my hand or whatever. If I want them to look at me, generally a noise to get their attention. I think in this case, though, I had a couple of times thrown a little stick to try and get her to look that way. Right. But I think in this particular case, she'd heard something. And so because of her two breeds, she's very alert and very on watch. And she's also very protective of me. So her default is to make sure she knows what's going on in case she thinks she needs to protect me, which she doesn't, and she's never had to and hopefully would never have to. So I think something caught her attention, and that's actually that particular frame. It's quite funny, though, because I went out So I have a variant or a different version of that of Theo, which I've been working on over the last couple of months.
I was going to say, is Theo jealous?
He was that day. He was laying down. He was laying down, and every now and again, I'd throw him a couple of treats just to make him just be happy enough.
You're not the star in this one, Theo.
No, and he hates it so much. But he has a version which I will have to share it with you. Yeah. But when the first time we went out to try it, because it's in a different location, same reserve but different further down. It was at sunset because that's the best time, and also because I'm not a morning person, so I'm not going at sunrise unless I have no choice. But kangaroos went in the distance. So the photos, he was just looking at kangaroos, which is great because that's what I didn't want him looking at me anyway. So,
He's not just about to leap off for a kangaroo, is he?
No.
I'm going to ask you, but I know you've got great muses here. You've got Theo and Claire, and they feature in many of the photographs I've seen of your work with dogs. But you do work with other people with dogs.
Yes.
It's something that you do professionally. What advice would you have? This could be going down a long rabbit hole now, I don't know, for people photographing their dogs.
Two things. One would be aware of the light. So honestly, sunset or sunrise are generally speaking your best times of day. And that honestly, this goes for mobile phone photography as much as, anything else for that matter. But probably more important than light, and some people might yell at me for that, but is to get down low. Don't photograph them you can photograph them from up high because that's really dramatic as well. It gives you a different view, and I have certainly done that. But if you get down low, like lower than them, especially if you're wanting to make them fill the frame, that does that. You're getting down really low and you're looking up, the camera's looking up at them, and they just become the feature, the main thing. And even when you want them in a landscape, so more of a landscape. Like Claire's one isn't super landscapey. There's landscape there, but there's not a lot of it. Whereas the one I'm working on for Theo is actually a panorama stitch. So I've got him and trees, but also there's like more of the landscape. I'm still down low. In that instance, I was laying down on the ground, completely covered in sand. Camera wasn't. That's all that matters. It's composition, and getting down nice and low is really the best thing you can do.
And my thanks to Kim Cofield, who I'm hoping I will be travelling with later on this year in either Scotland Land or Veniceville. I have no doubt, Kim, that you and I will be looking for four-legged friends to photograph, since we won't have our bundles of fun with us. And actually, we'll stick, if you don't mind, with the Australian theme for a moment, because I have this letter. Can we do a letter? Just one this week? The mailbag returns properly in a couple of weeks' time, but it's nice to dig into the mailbag a little bit. This is from our friend Gavin Perry. Gavlar, he says, using a reference from the excellent Gavin and Stacey show. Now, this could sound a little self-congratulatory, for which I apologise with lots and lots of English embarrassment. I am dragging along, here we go, the sofa of flattery to hide behind. But I think it's a letter that, for anybody new around here in 2026, explains what this show is all about. Hi, Neil, says Gavin. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for a year of truly excellent episodes of the Photo Walk. What you have created stands out. The combination of thoughtful, high-quality guests, your relaxed interviewing style, you're great at letting people talk. Gavlar, please tell my family that. Your unmistakable British humour, which I think, Gavin, you probably mean strange, and the outdoor, on-location nature of the show makes it something I genuinely look forward to every single time a new episode drops. There's something special about the way the podcast feels both unpolished, what are you saying? In the best sense, and incredibly well put together at the same time. Slightly rescued there, Gavin. The location episodes in particular always feel like an invitation to slow down and walk and see photography and photographers from a more human perspective. There's that H word, you see. Human perspective. If I lived in the UK, I'd be having bacon butties with you monthly. Never mind that, Gavin. We'd be having bacon butties every single week, I think, you and I. We'd make it a photo date. You just need to hurry up and invent the teleporter that Sir Michael of Mixonville in America Land very nearly invented about a couple of years back now. I still can't quite figure out why this transponder that you've sent through, Michael, why it doesn't work. I've put new batteries in it. I've stared at it in a menacing fashion. Still doesn't work. I honestly, says Gavin, don't know how you find the time to pull it all together, especially alongside being a wedding photographer, funeral celebrant, podcaster, small travel business owner, husband and dad to 2 boys. Well, the dad to 2 boys bit is getting easier now, Gavin. If you've heard the, which you will have done, I hope by now, if you've heard the reflection, you'll understand they're beginning to find their wings. They're flying, they are, Gav, they're flying. But I will level with you. I do sometimes struggle with a balance of everything, I'll be honest. I am teaching Sir Barkalot to answer emails, so far, with no luck whatsoever. So thank you, says Gavin, for the conversations, the laughs, yes, the tears, the inspiration, and for clearly putting a lot of yourself into something that brings a lot of value to others. Wishing you a fantastic year of walks and conversations ahead, Gavin. Gavin, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really very kind of you. And as I say, a little bit self-congratulatory, but I do hope that, what I'm hoping is what you've written about really is a great explanation of what this podcast is all about. When I started recording it in its current form years and years ago, it struck me very quickly that it's a really precious way to reach out to a community and for a community to reach out to each other. And that's what, I truly believe that, I genuinely believe that. That's what's happening here. So thank you, Gavlar. So shall we have the third picture and photographer in the one, week 1? Yes. Where next? I think the Antarctic. Well, not quite, actually. The photographer I'm about to talk to is off to Antarctica. In fact, I think he's sailing the Drake Passage as this show goes out. Anybody who knows the Drake Passage will understand what a terrifying passage of water or sea, ocean, that can be. Anyway, it's David Wright, a Nat Geo photographer, a filmmaker, a wildlife and landscape photographer. I invited him to talk about his The One picture from 2025 because of the narrative behind it. I thought I might, or it might rather, speak to many who download this podcast, the story that you're about to hear. Photography is an escape. I say this at the head of the show each week. It is an escape for the noise of this world. I believe it does have the power to bring back emotional feelings in such a powerful and very personal way. Even feelings from a past that's quite a way back, as you're about to learn. Here is David Wright. David, you're about to jet off. You're always jetting off. You have a very jetty off lifestyle. I said to David a moment ago, you're looking very rugged, sir. He's got his good sort of his explorer's beard, ready for the for the cold weather you're about to endure.
Yeah, I'm off to the Antarctic for 3 weeks, which is always amazing on a Nat Geo trip. So I can't wait to be down there. And actually, I've got some kind of new photo things that I would like to try, photo and video actually, which relates a bit to the photograph that I submitted. I've been really getting into the panoramic kind of format, the X-Band format, and have some big plans for that in the Antarctic, both with video and still photographs as well.
What video? X-Band sort of video wide screen stuff.
Yeah. So I've been using anamorphic lenses.
Oh, that's the word I was looking for, was something like anamorphic. It's just obviously too soon after Christmas pudding.
There you go. Yes, I've been using those for video, but I'm actually trying to use them on a still camera as well. Although I've been very lucky in that I've recently got a Hasselblad, so I can actually do expand type crop in that anyway because of the resolution and it's built into the camera. But with video, it just gives that the widescreen look that is just always cinematic and always looks good. I mean, you just can't go wrong with it. And anything looks good when you shoot it with that format. Yeah. But obviously, the Antarctic makes an amazing backdrop.
So what's the difference then between shooting properly anamorphic, and you'll probably need to explain what anamorphic lenses do, and just cropping a really thin picture from your, apart from resolution and losing pixels, of course?
Yeah, I mean, the anamorphic lens, so that what it does, it sort of squeezes the image horizontally. So you de-squeeze it in post-production. So whether you're doing that in stills or with video, you basically have a kind of a squeeze factor, they call it. And the lenses I'm using are 1.33, so you de-squeeze it to that level and you get this beautiful widescreen format. Very easy to do. It does mean that you lose a little bit of resolution in a sense. You know, if you're shooting with a 4K camera, you do kind of have to stretch it. I'm actually, in the future, I'm trying to start to shoot 6K or even, as crazy as it sounds, 12K, so that you can not lose quality. Yeah. And the difference between those lenses and just doing a crop is really the way that the lens renders, probably most notably the background and also highlights. So you get these beautiful, if you have I filmed a football match recently, and for example, the lights in the background have this beautiful streak across the screen, you know, when you get a highlight like that. And it also renders this beautiful soft background, and you get different shaped bokeh in the background too. So you can kind of fake it sometimes. You can just crop, you can use a filter that gives the streaks, but really doing it with the proper lens kind of just takes it up a notch, and it really does look spectacular.
Yeah, so I saw a video, proper anamorphic film of the strip at Las Vegas, and the lights, and you can imagine what all the lights there do.
Perfect, yeah.
It just it's a canvas made for it in many respects, isn't it?
It is, and it's been they're not easy lenses to use. I mean, I think there's now a few autofocus just come on the market, but really these, I've got very used to using autofocus and iris control, but these lenses take you back to what I learned with like cinema lenses that are completely manual. Yeah. So they can be a bit of a challenge in that sense. The automation just is gone, but it's worth it for the look. I've been trying to shoot I did shoot recently a documentary just as a test, a short film, with a friend that trains an eagle and flies birds of prey. And it was kind of a test for me to see whether I could shoot it both with those sort of planned, beautiful dolly shots that are, very planned and choreographed, but also then be at a college football game here in the US and, be running around and doing an on the shoulder kind of shoot, which is much more challenging with, no automatic controls at all. But I think we pulled it off. So it was a good test.
Share the link at some stage, please.
I'll send it to you. It's called Finding Freedom. I'll send you a link.
I'd very much like to see that. Well, the picture you sent in for the one is the most serene picture. It really is. Tell me that the picture will be on the show page. It's already on the one page, but it'll be on the show page as well, so you can you can briskly reference it alongside the show itself. But tell me about this place before we talk about the narrative behind it.
Yeah, it's called Driftwood Beach. It's on Jekyll Island on the coast of Georgia, and just a magical place. It has this sort of, it's a skeleton trees. From the island is a very volatile kind of environment, and the ocean has kind of eaten away at the island on the south end, and the ocean has kind of eaten into the forest. So now we have all these like skeleton oak trees and pine trees that are standing out on the beach, and it just makes for an amazing location. A lot of people photograph it, and a lot of people have even used it for film shoots, sort of, TV series. The Walking Dead did an episode there, for example. It has that sort of kind of crazy
I thought I could see a zombie coming out of the water.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't have to use your imagination too much.
It does look like, as you say, as you cast your eyes along the beach, that those dead oaks will be all the way along that stretch of coast.
It's one section in particular. The rest of it is more sand dunes, but the beach is incredible all the way along, very wild and unspoiled. But that particular spot is just very special.
With the stars in the sky, what time was it made?
So that photograph is really, it was taken at my favorite time of day, which is like 10 minutes before sunrise. And for me, that's like the perfect time to capture an image like that. You kind of get the color, you get a little bit, enough light to capture the foreground, but also still capture some stars. To be honest, it's a thing with me is that as soon as the sun has just peaked over the horizon, it's time to pack up and leave. That's and that's the thing. A lot of people then, that's when they get busy. For me, it's the 10 minutes before that. That's the prime time.
That's quite nice. As you're heading back toward the car, you'll have a smug grin on your face as all the others are passing by you to go and get that photograph.
Yeah. And I'm off for breakfast.
That's it. Well, the beach is I think we can describe this as a place of safety for you. And it's a place of memory, isn't it? So you sent in the story behind this, the feeling behind this picture. Do you mind sharing that?
No, not at all. And I think it's it's a story that relates to other locations. I think it's the ocean and the sounds of the ocean and the sense of the beach is kind of what talks to me. So this is the sort of special place that's local, but I've been on other beaches that I don't know, it just has a link for me. I was recently on the west coast of Scotland and it had the similar kind of feel, but it really kind of comes back to, I want to put a happy twist on this, but my mum passed away when I was very young and had lost most of my memories of her, and met a wonderful, wonderful woman who was a psychologist who offered to try and kind of relink me to some of the memories that she thought I might have, which for me were long since forgotten. And she suggested hypnosis, which I was very skeptical about. And, everybody kind of thinks of the sort of more the circus act version of that.
Yeah, so there's that sort of stage act where everybody sort of turns into a chicken or something, but it's
exactly
so much more than that, hypnosis.
Oh, it was, and it was life-changing. It was just it was the typical, you lay on a couch and somebody talks you into or this lady talked me into this kind of almost parallel world. And
what, through this picture or pictures or places like it, you mean? Or
just talking about it, actually. So it kind of, the connection came after going through the hypnosis. I was really, and I think, searching for some of the lost memories of my mum, and talking to her, it just took me back to one of the last times that I was with her.
Wow.
And I was a small child, hence why the memories have pretty much faded. But it was actually on the Isle of Wight.
Right.
Being on a beach on the Isle of Wight, and it just completely brought back the sense of, the sounds of the ocean, the smell of the seaweed. That was actually sound of a pebbly beach, and it was just the sound of the ocean rolling on the pebbles. And I mean, literally felt like I was holding her hand again, standing on that beach. And
so that would have been one of the southern beaches then, would it, with the pebbles?
I guess so. And it's a lifetime since I was there, literally. So I don't remember exactly where it was in the Isle of Wight, but I know that's where we go on holiday each year. So that sort of sense, that I think it is the sort of the smells, the sounds of the ocean that then kind of just help bring me back to that place with her, which is was an incredible gift, because for most of my life I'd lost it, and now I have it again. And it's so being next to the ocean like that is just a very healing place for me, and grounding kind of feeling.
The sound is. I was thinking about the sound of this particular photograph. I'm as I look at the photograph, I'm hearing a sort of a lapping of waters, but I don't think that's the. I think the serenity is the silence of this picture, because, as you say, you're there right at the stroke of dawn. It's just I'm not really necessarily hearing any birds in this particular picture, because as I look at it, it just looks utterly quiet.
It is a very, very quiet place, which is one of the wonderful things about it. That's a rare thing these days, and particularly in the US on the East Coast, it's hard to find those places. So that's one of the things that makes it special. Yeah, it is that time of day when really nothing, like 10 minutes later, the birds are starting to move, and you start to see birds kind of just working the shoreline and feeding, and other birds starting to move. But that time of day, it is really, really quiet.
I mean, I'm interested. You might not be able to answer this, but during this hypnosis that you were having, what was it? The sounds that came back to you of the shoreline first, or was it the image, or is it, or could you? Does it all happen at once? I'm intrigued about how it works.
It's a good question. I think actually the sounds, and then funny enough, the smells of the place too. It was, and I really have a strong memory of like the seaweed that was sort of washed up on the beach and the ocean. But I think it was the sound of the ocean that was the first thing that came back, and then the sense of just holding somebody's hand, which felt completely real.
I wonder if others that look at this photograph that have had a similar story to yours would feel the same looking at this picture and knowing the story. I wonder whether we've talked about grief a little bit within the show of late, and how photography plays a part in that process. I wonder whether people will feel that as well, will share that feeling.
Well, it would be lovely if they did. That'd be a great thing. So it'd be, if there's any feedback, it would be lovely to hear that.
A lot of photographers keep some places quite secret, don't they? This one clearly isn't, because as you're walking back, other people are walking down. But are there places? Because I know your photography and I know what you like to shoot and what. I mean, clearly on the poles you can't do that. But are there other places in the world where you're reasonably secretive about where stuff has been made?
Yes, a little bit, because this particular place definitely has been the victim of social media in a sense of 10 years ago, I would be the only person there, and now you're with 5 other photographers pretty much every morning. So yes, I am a little bit vague often now when I do a location. If I put something on Instagram, I'll put the general area, but not the exact spot. And I think for me, probably the places that come to mind are actually further afield. I spent a lot of time in Australia, and there's some places in the Northwest in the Kimberley where I've done a couple of expeditions for documentary shoots, and incredible places with history, Aboriginal paintings on cave walls and wildlife that was tremendous, and scenery that was incredible. That hard places to get to, and it took us a lot of effort to get to, and I don't generally kind of sort of publicize the exact location, because it's nice for them to just be left alone and be hard to get to. It's kind of funny to say that, but it's nice that there's a few places in the world that just take that extra bit of effort to reach.
Well, I remember it's the Manly to Something walk in Sydney, and I remember, I don't know whether you've done that walk around that coastline there, the sound of Australia in the morning, the bird life in particular.
Yeah.
For anybody that says, well, birds are birds, aren't they? Really, there is something about the bird life in the morning that is truly very different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I had a good friend that was sound recordist, and would often go out with him just to record hour-long dawn choruses in Australia and various places, because you could just guarantee every morning that you were going to get a track that was absolutely beautiful, and just, to play back as an atmospheric thing at home was wonderful, and would transport you back there. And the sounds are unique and special, and so different to anywhere else in the world.
Anyway, look, you're looking forward now to packing and being on your way, aren't you?
Kind of. I mean, it's chaos in the room with it looks like an explosion at a camera store right now.
I know you're going tomorrow.
Bags everywhere.
And you're thinking, Neil, get off the line, please. I've got a lot to pack. And don't forget your toothbrush, as they say. And I
still haven't figured out which camera I'm taking. So
well, you can't be just taking one, surely. I would imagine your kit bag will be quite full, won't it?
I think 3, but still, it's like which lens mount do I choose, and that determines which camera I take. And the video part of it is also determining that a little bit, steering me in a particular direction.
Well, there's going to be a second part to this. I'll tease you, because I'm going to continue talking to David, and this next bit will be on the extra mile. I'd like to talk to you about kit, and I'd like to talk to you about the adventuring spirit that you have when you move around the world. And my thanks to David Wright for being my guest on The One, Part 1. this week. And he does return on the first Extra Mile show of the year for our Extra Milers, our patrons, to talk about his travels with a camera, what he packs, how he makes pictures of wildlife, and so on. Plus, I have put a date in the diary to talk later on in the month when he returns from his adventures for a special which will probably go out in February. Talking of travels, we don't just throw this together. Talking of travels, we're on ours this year with the show. And as you head into 2026, I'd love you to be travelling with us as well. And you might be thinking, I could do with having an adventure of my own, thank you very much. Just me, with my camera, alongside other photographers, going to places I wouldn't necessarily think of going on my own. We're off to India this year in March, to Kolkata and Varanasi, though that one is full in many ways. Although we could take one more explorer who'd like to sample the incredible culture that's India. Otherwise, it really is only a listening experience because we'll be recording a special, of course. But then there are places for June in Scotland and for our camping adventure in England, which I am still due to put up on the website, I know. There is a space for Mongolia in September, spending time with the most incredible people and being part of a culture that's frankly magical in a place that's far, 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 far away. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to it. I really am. And then there's still a few spots for a shorter adventure in winter when we all go to Venice. I say all. That would be a stretch, wouldn't it? All of us, every single person who listens, blimey, we'd tip it over, wouldn't we? Anyway, our travelling adventures are on the website, on photowalk.show. That's the website, photowalk.show. All the links for our various adventures are at the top. Now, talking of travel, this next story, picture 4, was made by Mark Creamer. Or the picture was made by Mark Creamer, whose travel work or experience is really quite different to our own, as you're about to find out. His picture was a portrait of a man in Jamaica, made on a humanitarian mission. This is Mark Creamer for picture number 4 in the One. Mark, the photographs we have for the One, there's so much variety. This one is I was going to say it's a classic portrait, but it's anything but a classic portrait. In the story behind it is why I was really drawn to this particular photograph. First of all, can I ask you why you came across this photograph, how you came across this photograph? And I know that's to do with humanitarian relief. Yeah, so I've been involved with this organization in one way or another since 1990. It was officially incorporated in 91. Initially, my wife and I were volunteers, and later IT is my vocation. So later, I started doing, as we gained some computers, I was doing some administrative work for them. And eventually as a contractor, and then about 9 years ago, came on full-time as an employee doing that same type of work. But because of the focus of the organization, it's kind of in, I guess you could say it's kind of in 2 different facets. One is general humanitarian relief. We send supplies all over the world to people that are poor or in difficult situations. And the other is our disaster relief part of the ministry, where we're responding to things that usually natural disasters that happen. So as an example, one of the earliest events that really got the ministry going was Hurricane Mitch in 1998. And it was so devastating. We were already doing a lot of work in Nicaragua and Honduras, and that's where it did the most damage. So we already had partners established there, and we started shipping supplies, and it's kind of grown from there. We always work with partners. We have established partners in an area
that is affected by one of these disasters, we'll coordinate with them to make sure that the supplies get to where they need to go.
What's it like when you go into these areas? Seeing something like this on television and seeing it with your own two eyes, two entirely. I mean, I know that seems obvious, but nothing can probably prepare you for flying in to work on a disaster response mission.
Yeah, the two that come to mind that shocked me the most were Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico a few years back, and this one, Hurricane Melissa, that hit Jamaica. Basically, on TV, you'll see things like overturned trees and cars in a ditch and that kind of thing. But when you are facing just mile after mile after mile of complete devastation, it really gets to you. And that was the situation we came to with this trip. We pretty much traveled down the coast to get to the 3 different locations over the 3 days. And I took a lot of pictures of the destruction. That was my primary focus, is to just document the work while we were there. But yeah, it really brings home the kind of conditions that some people face, and makes you kind of forget the little things that bother you day to day when you're not faced with those kinds of
perspective. I would imagine is the one thing that instantly plays, isn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Very much so.
So this is in response to the Hurricane Melissa disaster. This picture you've made in Jamaica, and the man's name is Milton, the person in the photograph. Tell me about Milton, and tell me about the photograph.
So it was the 3rd day of the 3 that we were there seeing patients. We had 3 doctors, a nurse, and a pharmacist with us, and then the support staff, of which I was part of that. And it was towards the end of the 3rd day. I was kind of getting tired, and we had not too many people left to see, but the doctors were still seeing a few people. And I noticed this guy immediately when he came in. He just had, I don't know how else to describe it, but he had that look. It wasn't a devastated look. It was just, he was interested. He was curious, and he took his place in it was within a small church. He took his place in a pew and talked to the people who were doing the triage. And then once he was ready, he came up and saw one of the doctors. And I was sitting up near the altar at the time, and just kind of watching things going on. And he caught my eye a couple of times, and the doctor was working with him probably for only about 5-10 minutes. He didn't have any serious issues, but I could tell that it was important to him just that he was being seen and talked to. And the doctors asked pretty much every patient we saw if they were directly affected by the hurricane, and without question, every single one of them was, in one way or another. Some of them lost relatives. Almost all of them lost belongings, and some, like him, lost their home. And so I just, when he was finished with the doctor, I just walked over and sat with him for a moment and shook his hand and talked to him. And I was able to get a little bit of his story. And he's basically living with relatives for the time being, but he was very upbeat about the future. He said, "We've been through this kind of thing before," which is interesting because it's historically the worst hurricane on record for Jamaica.
On the back of that, there's a sentence that was in the narrative that you wrote that goes with the picture. Many people just want to know they're not forgotten, not ignored, even as the US media quickly moves on to the latest political bickering or toxic voyeurism, something we talked about recently, of course, in the show, in the news. And that's very important, isn't it? That they don't feel forgotten. And
yeah, because even we tend to respond fairly quickly if we can to disasters. In fact, the ones that are domestic, we're usually there the 2nd or 3rd day at the latest. But in trips like this, there's a lot of planning involved. But by the time we got to Jamaica, the U.S. news was not covering this at all. They were on to the next thing very quickly. And I mean, there's I don't know how many people are in the population of Jamaica, but pretty much every person was affected in one way or another. So yeah, it's very important that they're just seen and talked to. And in the case of the ones that needed medical assistance, we were able to do that through the doctors that were with us. So
Milton had his home flattened, didn't he? It was, so when you say we've been through this before, it's a fascinating reaction, isn't it? Really? As a human, when you look at this portrait now, what do you remember first? The face in the frame, or the feeling of his hand in yours as you shook his hand and sat down to have a chat with him? Yeah. What instantly struck you? I
think his face to me kind of showed resilience, if that's possible. Just being able to see, he had a very weathered face, but very kind. He was trying to take things in stride as best he could. So it was obvious the poverty that he faces every day. He was in his Sunday best, so to speak, when he came to sit with us. And he had his hat on there. I think it was Cleveland Browns, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the photo in front of me at the moment, but
I think it is. I'm looking at his hat.
Or Chicago, something with a C.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was mainly just that his calm demeanor. It wasn't like he was, thinking that this was going to be the end of his life as he knows it. Nothing like that.
Well, you're based in Ohio.
Yes.
So how do photographs like this change the way that you feel when you go back to, if you like, normal street?
I think I was thinking about this not long ago. The other trips that I've made were mostly to Haiti. I think when I looked at my passport not too long ago, it was something like 16 times that I was in Haiti with our teams. Some of those were medical trips, not all of them. And almost down to a single trip, I can remember something affecting me on every single one of them, whether it was a particular person I met or whether it was a dreadful scene. There was one gentleman that was literally laying on the sidewalk. It reminded me actually of that famous photograph that was taken in New York about the person stepping over the person that had fallen down.
Do you mean the Joel Meyerowitz one?
Exactly.
Was that France? I think that was France, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah.
But I know the photograph very, very well. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
It was very much like that. It was like the man didn't even exist.
Yes.
And he had the striking part about it. He was probably in his 40s, maybe. And the striking part about it to me that I'll never forget is he was wearing nothing but an old tattered suit jacket, just laying on the street, and people walked by. I've also seen results of traffic accidents there because Haiti basically has no traffic laws whatsoever. Children just wandering in the streets. So the poverty always gets me. And then when I return home and I kind of look around where we live, and we don't live in luxury here, but by comparison, we certainly do. But by U.S. standards, we were in a middle class area, and most of the people that I know are in that situation. But most people I know have absolutely no concept of the poverty in those areas.
I wonder whether photography makes you see differently. That sounds a bit cliche, but I wonder whether it does. I wonder whether your photography makes you experience things in a different sense to what you otherwise would. Because I know you would be there within your relief organization. I know you would be there helping and doing what you do. But I wonder whether the photographic element of your life helps you see these things differently. Does that make sense? It makes sense in my mind. It might not be in yours. I don't know.
It does perfectly. It kind of makes me focus on where I am and concentrating my eyes on the things around me that would make an interesting photograph. I try in those countries. I try to be very careful not to exploit, but at the same time be somewhat honest as much as I can about what actually is happening around me. And I've taken photographs that no one has ever seen just because of how difficult they are. I may have shown my boss or something, but we don't publish those.
No.
But yeah, it definitely makes me see things differently in those locations than I would maybe if I was just a casual observer in a bus going by.
It's interesting, the photographic and the professional life you live, because as we record these words, you really don't know where you're going to be in a month's time, do you?
Well, I actually travel the least of our senior staff.
Okay.
So we don't always take a photographer with us, and they're not always medical trips either. Sometimes, in fact, most of them aren't. We have a standing team of disaster response folks that are part of our regular staff. They do their normal work day to day, but when there's especially a domestic disaster like tornadoes or floods or things like that, they're ready to go. And the partner companies that we work with supply us with the things that we need in order to take on those trips. But you're right, none of us really knows where we're going to be at any given time responding to something like that.
And my thanks to Mark Creamer. The links to Mark's work, so you can understand more about the missions work, will be on the show page today. And just to reiterate, the pictures that are being spoken about here by the 5 photographers on this week's edition will all be featured on episode 513, the show page that is for episode 513 on photowalk.show, which is the website. Right, the final photograph and final story for this week. As I say, in the end, I decided to make this a two-part. A second part is coming up next week. This final story for this week is one about partnerships. It's a story about the precious nature of photography in terms of the comforts it can bring us mentally. But it starts out very much as a story about a particular kind of camera and photography, actually. I do believe we're going to do a little bit of tech, so stand by. I also think I may have found a new creative tool to take with me on my travels this year. The picture that you're about to hear about, the way that it was made, is absolutely fantastic. It was made by John Charlton. John, I feel like I'm piling pressure on you, and I'm really not. But you sent in a 360 inspired picture with your 360 camera. And it is a system. I'm really, really encouraged by your picture to actually go and buy one and try some 360 this year. Whenever I see a world created like your picture, they do look like these mini disc worlds, and I love it for that reason.
I think they call them a tiny planet view.
A tiny planet view. Well, I suppose that's right.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's your own tiny planet. So how does a 360 camera work?
It uses 2 lenses, one mounted on each side of the camera. The camera is basically like a phone. It's a very small thing, like a chocolate bar, really. And it's got 2 lenses mounted on either side of the chocolate bar. And you mount it onto a tripod, or you can hand hold it. It comes with a wand, like a selfie stick, and so that you can attach it to a bicycle or a motorcycle or a car, or just walk with it through the woods. And you don't have to point this camera. It takes a record of everything around you. And then you decide what you want to use in the post-processing. In the editing software, you can choose either to use this tiny planet view, or you can use a normal view or an ultra wide angle view. You choose the angle that you want. You choose the amount of distortion that you're going to allow. You can even zoom in a little bit. Of course, the more you zoom in, the fuzzier it's going to get. But it's very good at recording everything that's going on around you. So, for instance, this past year, I used it to photograph a band live. So I created a video of a band, the local band, and I just set the camera up on a tripod right near the main vocalist's microphone. And I was able to follow them, and then so if there's a solo by a guitarist, I can actually in the video set a series of keyframes, and these keyframes allow the view to change in the video after the fact. So I set it up, I record it, and then all the magic happens later. I can even follow him, like he would jump off the stage and then go into the crowd. And so I would follow him into the crowd. And then when he came back on stage, I would follow him back, and we would continue with the, seeing him up close.
So at that point, though, you're holding the camera very much on the same plane as that singer, whereas you can also put this thing high above you on a pole, as you've already suggested, and the software can take your arm out as well as part of the edit.
That's correct, and it's so you change the point of view. So you might want to choose a single point of view and then just keep changing your perspective in post-processing. But if you're going through a forest, for instance, you might pass the camera underneath a log to get a sort of a squirrel's eye perspective. And then after you come out the other side, you could grab the camera and then lift it up, and you could go up and look at an owl in a tree that's nearby, for instance, right? And go right in. So it can actually, in some cases, it can appear to be a drone shot. So you can go from a ground shot to a drone shot in a single take.
If you're pushing that camera through, say there's a log, it's a hollowed out log, and you're pushing the camera through the log, I'm thinking far too laterally, probably, that the camera angle would just be looking up or down, but it can look forward or any that, hence 360.
It's looking everywhere when you do that.
Yeah.
So again, you choose your framing afterwards. You don't choose the framing ahead of time. You choose the framing afterwards. So it will depend on what you're photographing and what happens. What becomes interesting. So if you've got one of these attached to a motorcycle, for instance, and you're going down a country road, you can look back at yourself. You can look down at the pavement that's whizzing past, or you can look out at the sea, which is a giant panorama. So you can go back and forth, and you can get this real sense of motion. And a real sense of scenery, and there's so many possibilities. And it is an action camera, so it's sort of designed to be used in that sort of motion is what it does best, right? But it also is very good at following things. So if you were on one of your walks, you would be able to set it, and you could then go back to around a corner, walk up to the thing, and it would follow you past the camera and down and then out around another corner, right? So it creates a cameraman that you don't have to, it's the cameraman, basically, because you do it all in post.
John, you've just chosen, I think, my new toy for 2026.
I know. Once I found out about this thing.
I've seen YouTube videos about them. I've seen some of my favorite creators use these, and I've never used one myself. It does appear to me that there's a lot of resolution, a lot of pixels rather, that are being thrown away because you're recording everything. So this whole thing's
absolutely.
So I think you may have hit on it there, that you have to consider it like an action camera. Well, it's an action camera, so you are prepared that this thing is not making you a 6K video.
That's correct. And the surprising thing is that you don't need that much in the way of resolution to match, even a 4K screen. You're going to get good resolution out of this thing. This is version 5, I think. And its low light capabilities are off the charts. And it actually can see better than you can.
So removing the tech stuff for a moment and removing the opportunity for me to get a nosebleed, as you know, the story behind this and this picture, there's something really very precious about it. And can I ask you to recount why?
Well, a little over a year ago, in October of 2024, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. And it was a very quick aggressive form of cancer. And 3 weeks later, she passed away. I did get her back to the house, and she was able to die here, which was good. So getting her here, and we live out in the country, and we no neighbors, and it's just very peaceful here. So I got her here, and like I say, it was very quick, 3 weeks, and she was gone. The night that she died, I stepped outside the front door after a very long day, and it was, I guess, just after midnight. And I looked up in the sky, and the northern lights were shining down. It wasn't the most spectacular northern lights display I've ever seen, but it was definitely there, and it was it took my breath away, you know, and it felt like a sign from her. And ever since that time, when I see northern lights, I always sort of feel like, you know, that's her. She's sending me a sign. And so this picture is important to me because it's northern lights, and because it was this new way of seeing the world around me. And, you know, the past year has been a difficult one for me, to be sure. We were together for almost 50 years and married for 38 of those. So it's been a period of reinvention for me, learning to live by myself. And I don't know, it just, that one picture just encapsulates. I mean, there was another picture from 2024. If you had asked me in the end of 2024, what picture, you know, was it, I would have shown you the picture that I took 3 days after she died, when the most spectacular northern lights I've ever seen appeared. And I got a great shot of that, and it's gracing a calendar this year for the Northumberland Land Trust. And that would be the 2024 picture. But the 2025 picture was another one of the northern lights, and in this case, taken with the Insta360. I like it because I'm surrounded by darkness.
Yeah.
The camera view is of the lawn around me. It's like a mowed area to the east of our house. Right. And it was in total darkness. I mean, it was dark. It was dark enough you could see the Milky Way overhead. And that's, you know, that's nice when that happens here, and when there's not a lot of reflection off of clouds and things that pick up some of the light pollution in the area. Because I live in a fairly dark area, about 90 miles east of Toronto, and I was able to capture the Milky Way overhead, which in the same picture that I've shown you, I have another view of that, which is flat, just a super wide angle. And because it takes 180 degrees, right? I mean, so I was able to take a picture of maybe 120 degrees and show from east to west. And I have the Milky Way arcing over top of the northern lights, right? And that's like from this same picture. There were about 120 pictures I took, I think, over the course of about half an hour. I set it up with an intervalometer, and that makes the movie. And then I added some titles to it, you know, just to give it a little bit of bang. But just the individual frame to me says it all, because it's got my house in there. You can barely see it, but there's a light shining from the back of my house, and you know, there's the stars. The stars are actually moving. It's another little trick that the camera does. It records the stars over the course of the 120 pictures, and then it combines them in kind of a little arc. So that's called a star lapse view. So this is a tiny planet star lapse view. It's one of the many different processing tools that are available with the camera.
Well, my youngest son saw it and he said, "It's like you screwed up the world and put it as a small ball." And I said that's exactly what it is. And I think that sometimes, maybe I don't know, as a creative, I do tend to either overthink or think very deeply about things, but I often think that when I make my photo walks and when I'm with you and the other listener that I'm talking to through the podcast, I do think we're in this sort of small, scrunched up little world. And that's what really drew me to the picture, as well as, of course, your story. And so sorry for your loss of your wife. And do you know, I want to do something. It's my rules. I can break them, John. You know that picture that picture you said, if we'd have said send it in 2024. Can we have that one as well?
You can. Yes, I'll send that.
And we'll have them
Sure.
side by side.
We don't see a lot of northern lights here. We're fairly low, just at the northern side of the Great Lakes. But this past couple of years, there's been a lot of solar activity, and we've seen more than our share, really, for this past 2 years. And right around the time that she passed was one of them. There was also a comet that appeared very shortly after. The Atlas comet was in the sky very shortly after she passed. So I've had my eye on the skies. I don't know. It's just something that keeps happening here. As the skies have been remarkable.
What was your late wife's name?
Ruth.
So
yes.
It's an ode to Ruth.
Yes.
And my thanks to John Charlton. Such a special picture, such a special story. It really is. I love the photograph for this, for its, I suppose, quirky nature in terms of the tiny world, but I love it for the nature in terms of emotional connection to the elements and your life story that it brings as well. So thank you so much for sending that one in. And that's it for part one of this show. There will be 5 more pictures and stories from the one next week. If I have been speaking to you on email, Christmas and New Year did rather get in the way a little bit of communications. Communication let me down. Wasn't that a Spandau Ballet song? Don't sing, Neil, don't sing. I was about to, actually. Rescued. Well done. I'm sure it was. But if I've been contacting you, I will be talking to you over the next couple of days. And I think there is still a space for one more. So I could be talking to you if you sent one into the one. Who knows? So the first Extra Mile of 2026 is now available. I'd like to play you 2 more moments from recordings made with guests who have featured on this week's show. There's a little more from David Wright in terms of what Kitty takes on his wildlife and landscape adventures, plus what he looks for in a photograph. And in that a new year nudges us to have a small or indeed large rethink in terms of how we go about things, both in our work and in ourselves, John Charlton returns to talk about a wonderful platform that I'm personally going to be embracing more this coming year, and that's Substack. Plus, we talk of the precious nature picture making is in John's life.
On this week's Extra Mile.
As far as mental health goes, I can't imagine not having photography as a creative outlet. It's very important to me. You know, I spent 10 years in photo retail. I met my wife in photo retail. Yeah, photography has been a central theme throughout my life.
I always try and push it in terms of, trying to do something different. I do that whether I'm shooting just 2 miles from the house or all the way down in the Antarctic. I'm always trying to think of what new way or twist I can put on things. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, the photograph that you featured on the one is, it's a beach that has been photographed thousands and thousands of times. So I'm always, striving to just sort of find a new way to see something and put a new twist on it.
So if you can't wait until next Friday and would like to walk a little bit further together, then that's what the Extra Mile editions are all about. It's our Patreon-only show, which this year is going to take on a more personal, behind-the-scenes feel at times. as well as carrying a lot more second halves of conversations with our weekly guests. So yes, if you'd like to hear a bit more from the photo walk each week, head to the website, click Extra Mile or the orange, yellowy orange support the show button, top right hand corner, and your help sincerely keeps us walking here week after week. And a quick nudge, our monthly live Zoom meetup for Extra Milers, the Envision show, happens this coming Tuesday. So if you fancy some live company and conversation, I would love to see you there. Now, just a few closing thoughts before the PS and the play-out song. My sincere thanks to you if you are or you're about to become an Extra Miler. We will keep building this community in 2026. This kindness that we have in this community, I think, is really special. And you help build that. Also, my thanks to Neil Ford, who looks after IT, Andrea Gilpin, who's keeping a watchful eye over Instagram, Kelly Mitchell for Facebook, Kelvin Brown, who looks after Flickr, and to Michael Brennan, who compiles the music of the show onto a Spotify playlist. Right, slight different order this week in terms of the way we're doing this. A postscript for the show, and then I'd like to play the play-out song for today's show. And even though it's Jan 2nd, if you're playing this on the day of release, it'll be the song that traditionally we sing in our family as the clock ticks over to midnight on Deck 31st, a particularly wonderful version of Auld Lang Syne by Narrow Skies, a super way to think a little more about what's been said today. So here we are then. A new year, a new set of shows ahead for the year, and lots of travels as well. But a new year doesn't have to come with big plans or bold promises. I think for a lot of people, and certainly for creative folk like what you and I is, it starts perhaps by giving yourself a space chance to try something again or something new, because the end of the year can certainly sap your creativity, can't it? And your mojo. I know plenty of photographers that toward the end of 2025, I don't think it was an easy news year, he says. And I sincerely think that has probably played a big part in the way people feel at the end of, or felt at the end of 2025. And there were some photographers saying to me, I feel like I'm wading through treacle. So I do think a new year comes along. It's a freshen up moment, isn't it? Grand plans are all right and all that, as they say, but I think the half-baked stuff is where the magic can lie. So make small, steady steps. So it's a kind of a PS. It's not a quote as such, but it's this. If this year brings you anything, I hope it brings more moments to notice and to make and to see where things might lead, whatever this year holds for you. Because I'm looking forward to spending time together right here in this fantastic community of like-minded people.
And all that
The Photo Walk is a Loading Zone production.